How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the WIFFY Real podcast, man. I'm excited today because I have a very special guest that I'm excited about introducing to you guys. She is very near and dear to my heart. She's the owner of my heart, man. My beautiful wife, my beautiful bride, Rosie Real. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up, give it up. Whoop, 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 whoop. Welcome to the WIFFY Real podcast, babe. I'm excited for you to be here. Before we get going, I want to give you a proper introduction, as I do to all my guests, an AI introduction. Let's see what AI has to say about you. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Rosie Real, a powerhouse executive assistant, mom of 4, and the creator of 2 empowering platforms, the Assistant Blueprint for aspiring admin professionals, and Conexión Mamá, a movement helping Spanish-speaking moms reconnect with their dreams. Woo! Fancy dancy, baby.
What an intro.
What an intro, man. What an intro. I'm excited to have you on the podcast because I want to talk to our audience a little bit about our story. Your story. I want to hear your story, but I also want to share our story. And then I also want to share with the audience what you're up to, because you in your own right are an entrepreneur. And not only have you already launched one platform, but you're about to launch a second platform, which I'm really excited about. And I want you to share that with the audience and the world, because we need to make more money, you know? And so, no, I'm kidding. So let's get it cooking, baby.
Don't worry, I got you.
Noah's already asking for a paycheck, guys. Come on, come on. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. He's not. Ladies and gentlemen, again, my wife, Rosie Real. Babe, if you can start off with a small introduction of where your story begins. Take it away.
I'm just going to start with saying, Noah, there is a chapter in my workbook where it's going to talk about how you can talk to your supervisor to get a raise. So you can get that for free. Yeah. I'll get it to you, Noah.
Good luck.
You a copy of the workbook. Oh my gosh. So where does my story start?
Yes.
I was born in Torrance, California, but then just born there. And then my mom took me back to Mexicali, Baja California. My first years, my core years, I guess you can call them, I was back and forth between the States, United States and Mexico. My family was still in Mexicali, Mexico. So I grew up there in a very poor community, I guess you can say that. You know, we didn't have much. My parents built a house and we didn't have, how do you say it? Like drainage or like?
Yeah, running water,
sewer. So I have a lot of memories like heating up water to take showers. And, you know, we had that old school restroom, which is not a restroom, but, you know, what's the official name? Do you remember the name of that? Whatever they call that kind of restroom word.
The outhouse.
Yeah, that. And so I know a lot of people here talk about that like, oh, yeah, so many years ago. But for me, it was not too long ago. So I grew up there. And then my mom, from a very young age, she knew she wanted to come to the United States because she saw opportunity. She knew that she wanted her daughters to have like the best. She knew that in the States, we could make our dreams come true. And so when I was about like 6 years old, my mom sold her house. At that time, actually, it was 2 homes. She was working in the States and then living in Mexico. She bought 2 homes. She sold them in order to come over here. And we ended up in Calexico. And I still remember we used to rent a garage. Like she had like an acquaintance or somebody she knew from work. And we rented a garage. And the first night we just slept on the floor. And that's where my story started, with the hardworking mama that knew she wanted us to grow in the United States. And then she built a small business. And then I lived in El Centro for a couple of years, then went back to Calexico, went to middle school there, and then graduated from Calexico High School. Woo woo.
Bulldogs.
Once a bulldog, always a bulldog.
That's right. That's right.
And yeah, so I graduated there. And then I started working for a very famous coffee company.
WIFFY's? Not yet.
Not yet. business coming.
That's
soon.
right. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And so I worked for Starbucks in Calexico, and then I was going to college or community college at that time. And then I met
Yeah, so I'm going to stop you right there real quick. Just kind of want to go back, rewind a little bit into your story. So like you were saying, man, you have an incredible background. You don't come from a lot. You come from humble beginnings, literally, like you said, where you had to use the restroom out in an outhouse. You had to warm water to take showers. I remember you telling me on other occasions your floor was dirt, you know, and you guys didn't have rug or tile. And then I just want to fast forward to like, you know, you mentioned your mother, and I want to give her credit because she came to a country where she didn't speak the language, but she built a small business good enough to sustain you and your family. And, you know, that's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible, and deserves credit where credit is due, man, for sure. Being that we talk about entrepreneurship here as well. You know?
I do honor my mom in that way because she is at her, you know, at her level and where she was coming from. She was a visionary. Like she knew what she wanted. And like I said, we did at the beginning have a house like that, but then she knew she wanted more. So she actually, her and my dad built a house from scratch. My dad, you know, what she knew from building.
Was the masonry? Yeah.
Yeah. And so they worked together, which they ended up having 2 homes in Mexico, which then they sold to be able to come to the States. Obviously that it's in pesos, which is not a lot when you come to the States, but still enough for them to just,
to kickstart.
To kickstart.
For sure. And obviously I know you, I know your story, and I know that you were, there were great values instilled in you when it came to working hard and making a way for yourself. When I met you, that was very evident to me. Cool. So I want to kind of fast forward to our marriage because that's kind of where I want to spend most of our time today. And then we'll talk about your 2 endeavors, and then we'll call it a night so we can go, you know, go do other fun things if you know what I mean. Bad.
Oh
Not tonight. Anyways.
You do realize I've been working since 5:30 in the morning and went to bed at 2:30.
I'm just kidding. But real quick, so I want to share with the audience our story of how we met. So because you've been on my case that I need to watch time, I want you to share the story like we always share it, but we got to keep it moving in a fast pace, okay? So go ahead, tell your side of the story of how we first met, baby.
So like I mentioned, I went to community college in Imperial Valley. And so I would always be late to class because I had to clock out and then go to class. And I remember the first day of math class and everybody was already sitting down. I open the door and I see a full class of students. And of course, I'm a little nervous because everybody's already sitting down. The class has started, teacher's talking, giving her lesson. And then I look in the back and there's this very cute guy, just like arms crossed and pretending. I can see that he was pretending to be listening to the professor, but I can tell you he was not. He was in La La Land till this day.
Never came back.
And so I saw you and I said, like, I'm going to sit down next to him. I'm like, no, but not like literally next to him. I'll like have a chair in between. But then somebody sat next to you and I was like, okay, that didn't happen. And anyways, time passed. And I remember one day we were taking a test and somebody just, and I'm like, yes. And can I copy you? And I was like, sure. And then I look over and it was you. And I was like, absolutely, sir. You can copy whatever you need. And then I remember you telling me like, I couldn't copy you because the professor was so smart that every other test was different. So you're just like, I guess you pretended to answer and you left. But then after that, we started talking and we became good friends. I remember that very clearly. Like we would stay after class and talk. And after a while, then I noticed that without knowing this before, like we have so many friends in common. And so anyways, I remember one day, like, I was like, he's never going to invite me out. Like, this guy is not going to invite me out. Like, I am we're good friends. Like we talk. Today is going to be the day when I'm going to tell WIFFY, like, let's go have coffee or dinner or whatever. And so I remember it was a Thursday and we were in class. And like I said, you would always wait for me after class. We would talk for hours. And that day you just left. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what happened? You left. And then I didn't have your phone number at that time because, like I said, it was just after class. So I remember we had this friend in common, Rafa. And I remember calling him. I'm like, hey, Rafa, do you have WIFFY's number? And he's like, what do you need it for? And I'm like, homework. So he gave me your number. And anyways, I start heading home, getting ready, right? Like, I'm so like sure that you're going to say yes. And so then I start calling you. And I still remember I started calling you when I was at the ATM because I said, you know what? This guy doesn't work. He's probably not going to have money. So I need to go get money out of the bank.
Way to put me on blast like that, babe.
You were just a student and a musician at the time. So anyways, I was like, I'm going to go get money. So I remember I was in front of the ATM getting money and I was calling you. And then I put the phone on my flip phone, the old school ones. And I'm like, as soon as it starts ringing, I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, what am I going to tell him? I've never invited a guy out. Like, and then boom, you answer and you're like, do you want to go have dinner? And I'm like, sure. Do you know who this is? And then
cool. And then I'll share my side of the story, man. So that's her side of the story. But my side of the story is that during that time, like she said, I had met her. I really liked you as far as like personality and stuff like that. So I appreciated your friendship. And so, that's why I would like hanging out with you. We would, like you said, we would stay and talk and stuff like that after class. One day, randomly, a cousin of mine who normally wouldn't call me, not because she didn't want to, just one of those things where that cousin necessarily didn't call me, on the regular basis, called me and she was like, hey man, I just want to let you know that your ex-girlfriend is at this restaurant with her new boyfriend and you should make an appearance, dude. And I was like, whoa, where did that come from? But I was like, I'm going to take you up on it, man. So dude, as soon as the class was over, I rushed out of the classroom. I ran to my car. I got in my car and I was driving home. And so, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get home. I'm going to shower and then look good. And then I'm going to go. And as I was driving home at that time, I had a friend whose name was also Rosie, but it wasn't you. It was a different friend. And so I called her, but she didn't pick up. So I left a message and I was like, hey, you know what? If you want to go to dinner, let me know. I want to invite you. Obviously, I didn't say why or for what reason. And I hung up. So I get in the shower. I showered. I get out. I'm ironing my clothes. And as I'm ironing my clothes, my phone rings. And like you said, flip phone, man. We didn't have all them caller IDs or anything like that back in that day. So I assumed it was my friend Rosie. So I pick up the phone and all I said was like, hey, do you want to go to dinner? And all I heard was, yeah. And immediately I was like, what the? Like, who is that, dog? Because that ain't the Rosie I know. You know what I'm saying? And so, immediately I found out.
This is Jose.
Whoa, bro. We don't roll like that. But, immediately I knew it was a female. I just didn't know what female. I was like, dude, I'm cool like that. So who could it be? No, I'm just kidding. No.
To this day, he has hope, but no.
Not at all. But I did realize there was another female. So I was like, okay, who is this? Who am I talking to? And then I asked, I'm like, hey, who is this? And you're like, oh, it's Rosie from your math class. And then I was like, oh crap. Like, I just invited this girl from my math class, dude. Like, so I was like, hey, you want to go to dinner? And you're like, yeah, let's go. So then we met up in that place. Long story short, we ended up having dinner. We do walk into the restaurant, and sure enough, my ex-girlfriend was there and with her new boyfriend. So I walk in very confidently. At this point, you don't know nothing. Like, you don't know what's going on. You're just like, along for the ride. We sit down, we start talking, and like always, we just talked for hours because we enjoyed each other's company genuinely, I think it was like halfway through it or a little bit before where I told you like, hey, honestly, I'm here because of this and because of that. And you were like, oh, no worries. And then you came over and you sat next to me.
I remember you said like, hey, I have to be honest with you. Like, I invited you because my ex-girlfriend's right there. My cousin called me. I'm like, oh, don't you worry, baby. Come over here. I'll help you. No, but like you said, we're really good friends already. Yeah. So just, chit-chatting and talking. Yeah. We even lost track of time. And they closed the restaurant, remember? And they kicked us out.
They were closing it out. And they're like, dude, you guys got to go home. So we ended up walking out together, and we ended up going to your house after that, you know?
Do you remember why?
Yeah, because as we were walking out, and keep in mind, audience, at this point, I want to say maybe 3.5 hours had gone by.
Yeah.
My ex-girlfriend had left with her boyfriend, or at least that's what I had thought. And so we're shutting down the establishment, man, because we're just having a good time. We're talking, we're chilling. And then so we get up to walk away or leave. And when we walk out of the door,
She's still there.
guess who's there?
She's still
My
there.
ex-girlfriend with her boyfriend, and I could tell in her boyfriend's face that he was like, oh, I'm here because of some stupid reason, I guess, you know? And that
Following
moment
orders.
I knew, I was like, mission accomplished, baby. They call me the Maverick, baby. Hoorah! JK. And then I told you, like, hey, let's go together in your car.
It's even the same car. And
It's
I was
even
like,
the same
sure,
car.
absolutely.
You're like, yeah. So then the rest is history, man. 4 kids later, a couple $100,000 in debt, and here we are, baby. No, but
As a tear rolls down.
as a tear rolls down my face. No, you know what? So I want to fast forward a little bit. So during that time, I was doing music and I was going to college just to appease the parents because, you know, they wanted me to do something with my life, not just music, right? And so, yeah, I was going to college, but my passion, my dream was music. And so you kind of got to become a little bit of part of that. And, you know, you got to witness a few things and stuff like that. But I don't want to really get into that. I just want to kind of fast forward. We get to the point where we get married. And then that's when I want to talk about to our audience today, really get into the weeds of that. And so before we do, though, I just want to say that the 30th of this month, June, we will have been married for 13 years. 13 years, man. Wow. We have 4 children. Our oldest is 12. All the way down to literally a year and like 9 months. Yes. And we're blessed. We have a beautiful family. We have 4 beautiful children, 2 boys, 2 girls. And it's been quite the journey. It's been quite the journey. But before we move forward, I just want to say to the audience that we're here today, not because we're good people, not because we have it figured out, and not because we have fought through things, which we have, but we're here today because of the grace of God. From day one, I remember one of the things you and I said to each other was like, divorce is not an option. So we've never really talked about that, even when we're pissed at each other. And number 2, we decided to put, and the reason why we said that is because we decided to put Christ at the center of our marriage, you know? And so I don't say that pridefully as in like, oh, because we did that, here we are today. You know, no, because I want to be mindful of the people who've probably done the same thing but haven't been successful, you know? But at the same time, I can't give ourselves credit, you know, that we give credit where credit is due, and it's because of his grace, you know, that we're here. Yes. And so I just kind of want to touch on the early parts of our marriage, in the middle, and then now today. And then we'll end with your endeavors, man. But feel free to just tell the audience how you felt, you know, at the beginning of our marriage and stuff like that. And then I'll chime in my experience and my thoughts.
Oh, so you want to talk about the hard parts?
All of it, because here at the WIFFY Real podcast, man, we keep it genuine. Genuine. If you need some wine, I can get you some wine to keep it genuine. But no, man, I feel that that's what helps people too. You know, the truth. Yeah. You know, and so feel free to speak your heart out. Yeah. Just don't give too many details. You know, if you know what I mean. You know, nobody needs to know my, you know, my size or anything. But. So inappropriate. Please let's cut that. Thank you. Here we go. Just kidding. Just kidding.
So from the very get-go, it was hard because my relationship with my parents wasn't great. It wasn't great because I was dating you. Things got a little heated there up to the day of the wedding. And so we started our marriage already with obstacles, I guess you can say, or some baggage in that. And for me, it was, being completely honest, it was really hard because coming from a quote unquote great relationship with my family, with my mom, and then getting married to you, and then having to let go of that and really, really like trusting God and being your wife and cutting that not connection, but like, what do you call it?
Umbilical cord.
Umbilical cord. And so, which now that I look back, that was the best thing that could have happened, because if it wouldn't happen that way, I probably would have still been very attached to, especially my mom. And so, yeah, so at the beginning, it was hard because of that on my end. And then you were going through also a lot, having to go from zero responsibility to now having a wife. I know we were joking about it, like that you were just going to school and doing music, and that's why I went to the bank, right? Like at that time, you were doing what you were supposed to do, being a college student. But then we decided to get married. We got married, and then we said we were gonna get pregnant 5 years from today, or the day we got married. And then I got pregnant like in the honeymoon stage, like 3 months in. And so the first year wasn't hard, but then when the baby was born, our daughter was born, that's when things got really, really difficult. Just having to juggle like the whole, having a responsibility, having to bring an income, having a baby, me still going through things with my parents, not having that support from my parents, and me being pregnant and giving birth, and just trying to figure out how to be like a good wife, a good mom, being a first-time mom. Now that I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then still wanting to be like a good daughter as well. So yeah, so that was hard. I don't know how to like what do you want me to talk about?
No, so that's great. I can now share my perspective from my side. So like you said, I was I was pursuing my dream at that time. So marriage and that responsibility that came with marriage, I wasn't ready for it, and because I wasn't ready for it, I had to go from being a boy to a man overnight, and then not only just because I had gotten married, but we got pregnant really fast. And so I knew by that point, obviously we were married. So I knew that I loved you and that I wanted to create a life with you. And like I said earlier, I genuinely, like, you're my best friend, and you became my best friend back then. So I knew that I genuinely wanted to be with you, but, like you said, we had trouble with your parents, and not just your parents, but your family as a whole. Things kind of went sideways with them originally for some unexplained reasons, which we won't get into the details, but, and then later for sure, things that I may have said or done, that added fuel to the fire, because at that point I was upset, and then, we get married, and like you said, even the night before there was drama for your mama, you know what I'm saying? And so we get married, and then, we get thrusted into now this new reality. And I felt like, man, it was like a shockwave to me, to my system, because I wasn't prepared, mentally. And you've always been way more mature than me. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that I saw in you. When I saw you, I said, you know what, with her, I can make it, because I saw you being a hard worker and stuff like that, and when I saw that, it wasn't like, oh, I see that, I can live my dream and she can support me. No, but what I did see was like, man, we can both hustle and make it,
Yeah.
And then that quickly changed when we got married. We get married at the time you weren't working because you had gotten injured. So right before you went back to work is when you got pregnant. And then I just kind of said, hey, just stay at home, and you did, rightly so, because you're a mother, or you were becoming a mother. And then we just kind of lived on one income for a long time. And during that time, we continued to have kids and stuff like that. And so I know I'm fast forwarding, but just real quick to kind of speak on what you just said, that time period. We definitely had issues with your side of the family, and it was bad and it was hard. And not only was I angry, but I was mad because of the things that had happened, the things that continued to happen, the things that they would say. It would just infuriate me. And then I could see that you were caught in the middle. You were caught in the middle because obviously they're your family. You love them.
And unfortunately, I was trying to play that
Yeah, you were trying to keep a balance between both. And I just want to say something to the audience right now. One of the reasons that we're still married today is because of the actions that you took early on in our marriage. And I want to make that clear because I know that that's not necessarily the norm. And I'm probably going to get roasted online, and some women out there are going to like throw some comments at me, but it's the truth. You made some hard decisions. And some of those hard decisions were, I'm going to say it how you always say it. I got married. This is my husband, and I'm going to respect my husband, and I'm going to give him his place. And that was the beginning of you starting to cut the umbilical cord with your mom specifically, but with your family as a whole.
Generations.
Generations. Because again, not everything that they were doing was okay. So we want to make that clear. But at the same time, it's hard because at the end of the day, they're your family. And then you also said, like, you know what? Eventually, not in that time. And that I think took even more time. But you got to the point where you're like, you know what? This is my family now. This is my unit, and I'm going to put out some parameters. And if people want to be part of that, they have to abide by these things.
That's correct.
And I want to give you credit for that because that came from you. Like, you made those choices as a woman, as my wife, as a young woman during that time, which not
With
only
the
shows
guidance of God. That didn't just come from me, but it came from what God says in His Word and what He was speaking to me at that time.
Right. And so we'll touch base on that. But like, you made those choices, and I'm like, we were talking the other day, and I said, babe, I love you and I appreciate you for doing that, because I'm sure those things weren't easy to do. And if you're listening, man, and some of you guys might be going through the same thing, one of the keys to our success was you activating and kind of saying, hey, you know what? This is God's design, and this is what I'm going to follow. And, it's going to hurt me, I'm sure. It's going to not hurt me as in it's going to cut me, but it's going to hurt because I'm attached to these things. Yeah. But I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. And I just want to give you credit and your flowers today, because I know that not a lot of women do that, because again, they allow their emotions and their attachment to what they've known and their families not allow them to do that. And that's not an easy thing to do. So I appreciate you for doing that. I love you, man. And that was one of the things that to this day has kept us a strong unit, And I say it very confidently and very direct and very secure, because I can't tell you how many bros I've talked to, whereas they're sharing their story of their marriage or their current situation, it's like, dude, like, I'm blessed with the wife I had, because if it wouldn't have been for her making those decisions initially, and then throughout the years, man, I wouldn't be married. I'd be divorced, because you wouldn't have given me my place. And I find that to be a common thread among women, Same thing with men too, so don't roast me, but more common in women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you know what? I also had to do a lot with you. Like, one of the things that I knew from the very get-go is that you were a godly man. Yes, you have your flaws, and you have, you obviously.
I don't think we recorded that. Can you please say that again?
Like, I knew you were a godly man. Like, I know that you love God with all your heart. And I knew that more than you listening to me, that if I went to the Lord and I prayed and I talked to Him, He would put you in your place, like what you had to do. So I was able to do that, but because you were also doing your part. Again, like you said, we're not perfect, but from the very get-go, when we were friends and when we were dating, like, I saw that in you, and so I trusted that. So I think that's key. I think my part works because you're doing your part, and your part works because I'm doing mine. So that's also very key. And it's the same thing when I hear stories or cases of people that are having troubles in their marriage, or especially in the core in the first couple of years. Like, I'm like, you have to go back into that. Like, is he a godly man? Like, are you going to trust God? And that's why I was able to take those steps that you were just talking about.
So I appreciate that, baby. And thank you for saying that. However, I don't want to paint myself in that light. I'm going to share the dirty, darkest secrets, because I want people to connect, And they're not going to connect with, oh, Wiffy's like godly man. They're going to connect with, like, man, Wiffy was an asshole the first year of marriage, And what I mean by that is, like, again, keep in mind, guys, we're having trouble with her family. Things are blowing up. She's going through her own things because she's processing like that separation, finally, that cutting of that umbilical cord, but then also knowing that she's secure in what she did. Like, she loves me. She wants to be with me. Now she's pregnant. So she's becoming a mother, going through all those hormonal changes.
Yes.
And then she's feeling her own way, man. And then I'm feeling my own way because of the things that are happening. But I want to say this, before our first daughter was born, I feel that was a good season of our marriage because, again, we genuinely enjoyed being together. You know, we like to travel. We like to go places. So I would say that the first year was great because, you know, we were on our own. Finally, we had our own place. We didn't have much resources or fancy furniture, but we were happy. We were happy, obviously, right? We got pregnant. But what I'm saying is it wasn't until, and I want to speed things up because of time. So we're going to have to do like multiple parts of this because I'm sure we're going to get some good comments and we'll touch on those bases. But moving forward, it wasn't until we got pregnant. It wasn't until our first daughter was born that I feel that WIFFY Real became like the complete opposite to what you had married.
Yes. Yes.
And the best way that I can describe it, there is no other words, was basically I was an asshole, man. You know, and I wasn't like hitting my wife, but I was definitely mad. I was mad at the situation. I was stressed, and I was like mad that I saw my dream fading more and more. And I was mad that now I had to do something that I didn't want to do, but I had to do because I had to provide for my family.
Yes.
And I was mad that, like, you know, in my own way, not so much from my parents because I'm a man, so it's different, but from my passion, from my dream, I was having to cut that umbilical cord. And I didn't know how to process that. And I was definitely a jerk. I was an idiot to you during that time. I remember you shared a story one time, and this is just me being totally vulnerable and transparent because I want people to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how bad things may get. But I remember one time, like, you were like out of it because you were tired, you were breastfeeding, you know. I don't know if at this time you were already pregnant again or not, but like, I remember you were in the room and I was trying to sleep. And I got so mad that I couldn't sleep because the baby was crying that I was just like, get out of here, you know, or something. I said something.
Kicked us out of the room.
Yeah, I basically kicked you guys out of the room. And looking back, I was like, dude, what the hell, dude? You know, like, how could I have acted that way?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
At the time I always use that word. You were a monster. Like, it wasn't the WIFFY I knew. It wasn't my friend. It wasn't that husband that I talked to for the first year. That's how I describe it, for sure.
So the first year was great. It was later when the added pressure
like the second year.
Kids came. And then that only got worse and better at the same time. And I know that sounds kind of oxymoronic, but it got worse in the sense that we continued to add more stress by having more kids.
Yes.
And
we had 3 kids in 4 years.
Yeah, we had 3 kids in 4 years. But it also got better because during that time, obviously, as you grow, you mature. But again, it wasn't all bad. And I will say that there were seasons in there where I would just erupt in anger because it was things that I was dealing within, you know? And it got to the point where, like, internally, I would blame you and I would blame my kids and I would be mad at you and my children because I'm like, dude, this is not how I saw my life turning out, you know?
Yeah.
And for a long time, I kind of blamed you for coming into my life and I felt pressured from you a little bit, like to get it done, you know, get married and move on because we were having issues with your family. So it's kind of like, I felt like it was a responsibility that I wanted. I just didn't want it at that time, you know? And again, I'm just being totally vulnerable because I want people to connect. However, during this time, you're doing something that's incredible. Not only is your husband not in the right mind space, but you're continuing to be faithful in your walk with God.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you've always said, and again, we're going to have multiple episodes of this, but one of the things that you've always said is that whenever you wanted to communicate something to me, especially during that season when I was out of it, because you knew that I was a man of God, you would pray and you would say, God, deal with your child, with your man child right now, please.
I would be on my knees or just, praying and just talking to God in my daily, like just, I always saw it like as a triangle. Like I never really communicated to you this way. I talk to God and he would talk to you. And I knew you were going through a lot. Like I can sense it. I knew that it wasn't something that I could necessarily like fix, right? Like I knew that God had to talk to you and he had to guide you, and it wasn't all bad. Like I also want to make it clear, like there was no like physical abuse. There was no, like, it was just those moments of anger and frustration because at that time you were also going to college, like you were finishing your degree, you were trying to find a job. We now at that point, like,
well, I had jobs, but just jobs I didn't want.
but not jobs you wanted. It was like more like short-term jobs, like, doing all that, going to school at nighttime,
going to San Diego back and forth.
You were going to San Diego back and forth
for school
2 or 3 times a week. I remember that.
Twice a week.
And then like we were super low income. Like we couldn't like
right.
having to buy diapers. Like I was also sensitive to that. Like I could see it. It wasn't like, oh, it's coming out of nowhere. Like I can see that you now had all this responsibility and that was happening. So I think that's also key because I also don't want to encourage like people staying like in an abusive relationship.
Right, of course not.
Like that's not what we're saying here.
Right.
And every story and every situation is different. But in this case,
I'm just highlighting the bad to kind of like relate with people,
Yes, but it wasn't all bad.
It wasn't all bad, and there was definitely some good seasons in those bad seasons. It was an ebb and flow for sure. For many seasons. I finished school, and then I got other jobs. We moved a lot. Every 3 years, it feels like we would move because we would get different opportunities.
Change your career every 3 years.
Yeah, I would change my career. No, not necessarily career, but my different position within that same field. And honestly, I can say that like we've gotten to experience. I want to get to the good parts because I have a lot of good to say, obviously, but I still just kind of want to finish the chapter on the bad stuff.
Yeah,
because I want to kind of share some things that we've done that may help other people. And so again, if you're a man and you're listening to this and you can probably relate to our story, all I can tell you, man, is that when you make a choice, you make a choice. And Jesus says in the Bible, or he said at what point in the Bible, he's like, let your yes be a yes and your no be a no. And what makes a man, what separates boys from men is their word, and that's a rare commodity in today's day and age because everything is so fluid. Not only, I'm not going to say, but your emotions, right? Like, I don't feel like being in this relationship anymore. Peace, I'm out, deuces. But one of the things I knew is that God, especially when I made a commitment, that big of marrying you and having kids, I was like, man, I don't want to be here and I hate it right now, but I'm going to be here and I'm going to work through it. And I'm going to go to that job that I hate. Like literally I would hate waking up to go to, but because I love my wife and I love my kids in the midst of all that, obviously that was the driving force, but the sense of fearing God, and if you're a man and you're listening to this, man, all I can tell you is, the only thing that got me through that was God. And I'm not saying that I had this perfect relationship with him at the time because I didn't, even though I was working in ministry, right? So you would assume that I would have a good relationship with God because I'm working at a church, but no, like, but because of his grace, and then those glimpses of me just reaching out to him and sometimes not even wanting to talk to him, but just kind of grabbing onto his truths internally, he got me out. And so if you're going through the same thing, man, that's the key. That's the key. There's no other way to go about it. Don't go talking to your friends because they're going to tell you things that you're going to want to hear and appease you and agree with you and go to God's word. What does he say?
For wives, it's the same thing, especially nowadays. Like till this day, there's, conversations that I'm part of where like, they're like, well, you deserve more than that. And you this and that. And I understand where they're coming from. But if we're women that listen to God and trust God, like there's work that has to be put in action and there's prayer and there's a lot of other things that we got to do before we go to others and start asking for advice. Seek your father first. Seek God first.
Seek your father first. And I know it's different for men than it is for women. Our struggles in marriage are completely different, right? One of the things, so I'm I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to take this, but just basically in a nutshell, our struggles are different. But we're going to move on from the bad, but I just want to highlight again that it's because of you and the decisions that you made, which were very cut dry. Like from this day forward, like if you do not respect my husband, you're not allowed in my house. Like things like that drastic and that dramatic. I want women out there to listen to that because I know that that's not a common thing. And I know as dudes are watching me right now talk about it, they're like, yeah. That's exactly how I feel, dog. Hey, get over here, baby. But no, that's very important. You drew those lines. You established those parameters as a woman, and with all your emotions and your attachments to your family and this and that. And then with your kids too, like, hey, you know what? You guys are talking trash. Like you're not allowed in this space because this is a good space, you know? And even though we were like going through it on our own or, amongst us, like you still protected that space,? And so I do believe that if it wouldn't have been for you cutting that umbilical cord and establishing yourself as a young woman and saying, you know what, godly woman, and saying, you know what, this is the way it's going to roll in my house. Again, and I just highlight that because I see that all the time. I hear from my homies, like, man, the attachment to families, especially from women, like sometimes it overpowers like what God has to say. Mm-hmm. And then like it undermines the connection with the husband and the family unit and things like that. So anyways, I commend you for that. But moving forward to the good things, the positive things, man,
here we go.
We've gotten to live some incredible, things, as you mentioned.
I know I'm incredible.
That too, baby. Yeah, I mean, we've never been wealthy. I mean, we're wealthy in other senses, but what I mean is like we've never been money rich. The first 10 years of our adult life, I was in ministry, so I had good ministry jobs, but they weren't paying good. Yeah. Good paying jobs because, we're not going to get into that, but
hashtag ministry.
But yeah, so, but regardless, God provided. And when we didn't have the money to live in that place, an opportunity opened up to live in that place, so to speak. And we were living in the nice house and people thought we were raking it in, but we're like, nah, dude, they're just charging us less for some reason. God's grace, Yeah. And things like that. We got to experience living in other areas that were not our hometown, which I'm glad for because we got to experience other things and kind of come out of our cocoon. And now we're here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. But we're here still trying to get here, you know what I'm saying? But all that to say that the experiences that we've lived have been pretty cool, man. And I don't know if you have something that you would want to share with that, but I mean, we're here. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, no, so many incredible things that you said, like even how like we ended up like renting like you said, like a big house, and people wouldn't believe how much we were paying for rent. And it was a God thing, like just literally. But it's always also been like in action. Like we pray, we trust God, but then you take action. And that's one of the things that I do admire that from you. And till this day, like I still sometimes say like, what would WIFFY do right now? Because you take action. Like you were praying, we were looking for we needed a bigger place. We needed something closer to that church that we were working for. And then you went and looked and you asked and you looked and you looked and then God opened the door. So it's just a part where you also take action. I think that's like very key because I do see occasionally people that are in ministry. They're like, well, it's not working or it's, but there's no action. So I think the action part is very, very key. But just so, like you said, so many stories from like renting a house, getting deposits and just, the people we've gone to meet and like
the places we've been to.
Like
the other day, I was just, we're about to go on vacation right now. And I was thinking of like taking stock of the different places that we've been to. Cause I kind of want to remind my kids because, they've been to a lot of places and I like to remind them like, hey, you're blessed, dude. Like most of your friends have probably not gone where you've gone. And so I was just thinking through all the places that God has allowed us to go and visit and check out and things like that. And some of those places frequently and like multiple times,
Or even like the famous people we've met, like
the famous people we've met, just the places that God has, has had us, you know, in the environments, the places, the people. Extraordinary. Like, I feel we've definitely lived an extraordinary life in that sense, you know, which is cool because I always said I don't want to live a normal life. I want to live an extraordinary life. Right now I get to do something that's really cool, extraordinary. I can't share because I can't share it publicly, but like you won't see it in my social medias or anything like that because I'm not allowed to, but I get to do it, you know.
And you know what? We've never been a social media like people. I don't know if like if you go to my Instagram, like it's always put like, I forget to like document or put on social like the extraordinary things we've done or the extraordinary people we've met. Like, I honestly say because we're like in the moment we're joining, and we have pictures, family pictures that we have like in the computers and printed out and stuff. But it's just, that's why I feel that sometimes when people meet us, they're like, no. You said that last month?
Yeah.
Is that you? It's like, yes. It's just because it's not on social, but
yeah, for sure.
We're doing
I remember when we bought the house, our friends were like, dude, we didn't know you. When we invited them over for dinner, they're like, dude, we didn't even know you bought a house. It wasn't on your like Facebook. And we're like, dude, we don't post those things.
Call
man.
me.
Yeah, call
How
me.
How you doing?
But that's going to change because, you know, we're trying to get more entrepreneurial. So we're going to start posting a lot on our social medias, not to flaunt or anything like personal, but rather to promote what we're doing in our endeavors. And so that's definitely going to change now. But cool. So I think that, again, there's a lot of information to unpack. I feel like we're going to definitely sit down and have more conversations. But before we move on to you and what you're doing now, I just want to say to those listening, guys, marriage is not an easy thing. Marriage is a hard thing. And the more and more time passes by, the more and more we see marriage becoming something transit for a lot of people, as if it were an experience, right? They get married, they experience it, didn't work out, they move on, you know? And for those people who have gone through something like that, I just want to say that my heart goes out to you because regardless of how people or modern culture try to portray it, like, oh, you know, this is, it's okay. You know, people even throw freaking parties, like divorce parties, right? Like deep down inside, I know, you know, we know that there's a lot more hurt and pain that's involved with that. But the world tries to cover it and put a Band-Aid on it and make it seem like, oh, no, dude, you can get a divorce, more power to you, you know? And it's like, nah, dude, it doesn't work that way. As we know through scripture, like when you marry somebody, you become one with that person, not only physically, but spiritually. And in the eyes of God, there's no separation. What he has united literally, you know, stays united to whenever he comes back. But so when we say like, oh, you can just get divorced and move on, like that's a lie. That's a lie straight from hell. But that's what the modern world says. Like, you know, no, you can do it. You can do it, you know? And
we're not, like you said, it's not that it's easy.
It is not easy. And if you've gone through a divorce, trust me, we're not trying to judge people here. We feel for you. And if you want to reach out, man, we would love to pray for you, man. But,
and to any girl, mom, women out there that are in an abusive relationship, please don't stay in that relationship. Like, that's what we were sharing. It's completely different to like physical abuse or any other kind of abuse. Like, we understand that you do have to like be apart from that person, and that's what you got to do. But we're just talking about like
in generalities of like issues that happen in marriages and stuff like that. But with that said, I want to encourage, if you're a man, I just want to encourage you and say, man, fight for your marriage, man. If you're a woman, I want to encourage you and say, fight for your marriage. And don't fight the way you know how to fight, but open up the manual, man, and figure out how he would want you to fight. Because honestly, the only reason why Rosie and I are still married is because of that. She goes to the manual without consulting me. She consults the Almighty, and then he talks to me. And likewise, man, I wish I could say I did the same thing, but I'm always in my feelings, man. I'm in this relationship, I'm the emotional one, man. I'm the one that's always sharing my thoughts, my feelings, but you know, I always want to talk.
We didn't share that about our marriage.
Rosie's like, shut up, dude. Like, I mean,
WIFFY's the one that's always saying, like, baby, let's talk. And I'm like, bro, we just talked for 30 minutes 10 minutes ago. Like, that's why I'm glad he has a podcast now, because it's coming out of his system.
Well, it is one of my gifts. You know what I'm saying? Cool. So moving on to you, to what you're doing now.
I honestly feel that today's not really to talk about me. Like, I think this was the conversation that God intended. Maybe we can do another night where we're like talking about what I'm doing and things like that. So I want to respect what I feel was conversation for today. Somebody out there's gotta.
Cool. So with that said, what do you feel in your heart that maybe we need to elaborate on a little bit?
I feel that I love you and that I'm so proud of you, of how you've been a man that's listened to the Lord. Like, I admire you. You inspire me to be more and try more things and give it my all to continue having this great relationship that we have, to our friendship, because like I've always shared with the kids and my friends, like we're friends, and I love that about us. We can sit down and talk for hours, even though I was making fun of him, but and he talks a lot. But I do enjoy spending time with you, and I am so happy that you now have this space where you can share about your journey and where you've been, and just thank you for being an amazing husband.
Thank you, babe. Thank you for saying that. And likewise, I want to thank you because for those of you guys watching, you know that I like to talk about entrepreneurship, and I interview a lot of people who have businesses. First and foremost, because they're already interesting by nature, by default. They're the risk takers, and so they give for very good conversations, right? And so all that to say that I want to thank you because I have tried many things. And recently, in recent years, we had a business that did pretty good, and it did pretty good for a season. And we were living large in life and everything. And then all of a sudden, things started going down. Things changed. And then when things changed, during that time, you had already started working and you had started moving up. And so I started to lean on you a little bit, because my business wasn't doing that great. And for a man, for me, that was very hard. I was very sensitive to what people would say around me. Like if they critiqued me or anything like that, I would, kind of backfire, because as a man, we're called to be providers. Mm-hmm. And so when we're not providing the way we're used to providing, or there's a shift and a change, it messes with you. It messes with you mentally.
Which it was the first time in our marriage that you were not doing that. So
right.
You also need to take a chill pill.
No. I know that. I know that. But I'm a man, and thank you for saying that, because, that shuts up all the critics. No, I'm kidding, dude. But it's the first time in our marriage where like I'm leaning heavily on you, right? And so as we're trying new things now, we started a different business, and we're growing that and things like that. And, money comes and money goes. Sometimes we feast, sometimes we famine. It's still been a little bit rocky for me. But I say that all to say that one of the things that I appreciate from you, and again, that's a key to making a marriage work, man, is the unequivocal, man, and unrelentless support, man. In the midst of uncertainty, you're still okay with me taking risk, and you're still okay with me exploring, and you're still okay with me being me, and finding myself. And for those of you who are out there and you're married, and maybe this is the issue that you guys are fighting about. Only you know you, and only you know your spouse. And I'm sure that there's a level of trust in you for me doing that. But at the same time, there's always that doubt, like, man, does he just need to pivot and go get an 8 to 5? But you've never really said that. And not only that, but you've allowed me again to explore, and with no complaints or no anything. And this podcast studio in part was because of you, in large part, it was because of you and things that we've done and collaborations of other people as well. But just because one day I was like, hey, I don't know what this means, but I think I'm going to start recording a podcast. So you believing in me like that, man, that's been a healthy part of my marriage that has helped me to balance the other things. When I get in my head and the thoughts or whatever, I go, man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. And that definitely produces like, the desire of me to want to give you guys more, and my all. And that's one of the things too that I wanted to say. So because I know that, again, speaking to my homies, to the guys, that's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes, wives have a certain perspective of how things should be, or how much money should be coming in, or, the type of lifestyle they want to live. And because of that, they keep their men, I don't want to say it this way, but tamed, and or in line. And that's never been the case with you. For as little as we've had, and as abundantly we've had at certain times, like you're in for the ride, And so I appreciate that too. And
Forever, baby.
Forever. I know I had a friend that used to give me a hard time. And again, this is one of the things that I want to share too, because it could help somebody out there too. He would always give me a hard time. And not only me, but apparently I found out he would, with my family members that he knew, he would share things like, oh yeah, especially when we first got married, like, oh, WIFFY's being controlled by Rosie now. Like he can't go out, or this and that, which I found that to be super funny, because you're the least controlling woman I've ever met in my life. And when I would go out, when we would first get married, I remember you telling me one time that your grandma noticed that I would ask you for permission to go out. And I want to make something clear. It's not that I was asking my wife for permission, as in expecting her to tell me, yes, you can go out, or no, you can go out. It was, from my part, a gesture of good faith, as in like, I love you, I respect you. Like, hey, babe, do you mind if I go over here? But I already knew the answer in the back of my head, because there's maybe been 3 times in our 13 years of marriage where you're like, nah, dude, I need you right here, right now, because of this. For the most part, it's always like, dude, go do your thing. And more often me than you. And it's because you have the kids and stuff like that, and you go, babe, it's not my season. It's not my time. Yeah. But that will come, And
then I know that if I need you and I express that to you, you're here. Like, that's the other thing. Like, it's not like you see me that I'm juggling like 20 things and you're like, peace. Like, you don't do that. You're like, you also know when it's the right time for all those things. Like, and I think that's very key to mention that. Like, it's not like I am always home and you're out and about. Like, it's
no, right, of course. And one of the things I want to share to my homies, to the guys listening, man, is like, dude, again, ask her for permission, not because I have a wife that whips me and exerts authority over me, but because, dude, I love my wife and I respect her. And by me asking, I know it's going to make her feel like, oh, cool. Like he takes me into consideration, So I do that, But I also know that I have the type of wife that's not going to be an issue. So wives, get it together. Just kidding. But no, seriously, it's an ebb and flow. And what I'm trying to say here ultimately is like, we don't have a perfect marriage by any means. But I think that the reason why it's worked out is because you allow me to be me. And by me, I don't mean like in the world's terms, like, oh, I got to be me. I got to go out with my friends.
Right.
Like, dude, I don't understand people when they get married. Right. They're like, oh, I still want to hang out with my buddies. Like, dude, you're supposed to have been married to your best friend. So like, what are you trying to go make new friends for? You know what I'm saying? Now, do I hang out with my buddies sometimes? Yeah, but it's not like, oh, I got to like maintain those buddy relationships. Like, dude, they can go eat crap for all I care. Like, it's my wife and my family first. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. However, as a dude, I like to go shoot some guns or like smoke a cigar here and there, dude. Like, and sometimes I just need time with the dudes, But not because, oh, that's what I'm striving for, I'm looking for. It's just like occasionally, and when it happens, Yeah. But I forget where I was going with that. But is there anything else in your heart?
You're in my heart. No, that's it. Yeah. I don't.
Okay, so do me a favor, and because I know that I've said certain things.
No more favors for you. That's it. What's up?
Do me a favor and just share your heart. Look at the camera and then just share your heart, because this is what you do. So before we leave, though, I just want to say, Rosie, like we mentioned before, has officially launched a platform, which is Conexión Mamá, and I'll let you elaborate a little bit on that towards the end, but something that God put in your heart to work with moms, specifically Spanish-speaking moms. But then as far as like a business, you're soon to release the Assistant Blueprint, which will be a platform where you help aspiring moms
Yes.
that want to get back into the workforce, specifically in administration,
Yes.
learn how to do that. And so that's pretty
Assistance.
cool. She's going to be selling like a, what's it called?
A workbook?
Like a
Is that what you're
workbook
talking about?
online.
Yeah.
So keep your ears, eyes open, guys. And we'll let you guys know when that happens. She'll be promoting it. I'll be promoting it. And if you have a friend that you feel could benefit from that workbook, please share the link so that the money is going to go to the Real Family Foundation to help us pay for our light bill and our water and
You
our
know
food.
what? In the Assistant Blueprint, it came from a place in my heart from exactly what we went through. Like when I was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and then me having like all these limited beliefs that I couldn't go back to the workforce. After being a stay-at-home mom for over 7 years. And so that's where my heart is, like for moms and women that have not been in the workforce for a minute. They've had to take in a pause, which I also want to encourage women that we have a different role than guys. We decide to put, like you said, I was at Starbucks. I was like making money. I was going to school. I was doing all these things and
Moving up the ladder.
Yeah. And I had an aspiration to move to Seattle and all these things. And then I took a pause because I got married, had kids. And I think that nowadays, like that's seen like, oh no, like you can't do that. Or like you're a full on boss babe, or you are like making sourdough bread in your home and that's all you do. Like, I feel that times have changed and we do need to stay in line with what God says about us women and moms, but it's okay to pause. Like, it's okay if you're going to take a pause from the workforce and then you're going to go back into, you're going to be a stay-home mom, you're going to be home wife with the kids, and then you decide to go back to the workforce. There's nothing wrong with that either. Or if you then decide to, no, I am not going back to the workforce, I'm staying home, that's where that came from. Like, just for those women that do feel that they're being called back into the workforce, they don't know where to start. I really feel that the becoming an assistant, an executive assistant, comes very natural for women because we've already doing that. That's within our gifts and our talents, like being organized and schedules and all those things. So anyways, that's where the Assistant Blueprint comes from. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. And then Conexión Mamá, that's a whole nother thing. When we were going through what we were going through in that season, that heart season that we were going through, I found an amazing group of moms that supported me in a godly way, that were also praying for me, that were also encouraging me to seek the Lord. And it was a group it was a small group that it was in English. And then I loved how they did things and how we were connecting, but then I saw that there was a gap. We didn't have that for Spanish speaking moms, and needing that community and that kind of connection and building relationships. Also from like us moving so like every 3 years and finding it hard to find a community. That's where Conexión Mamá was born. Like that instant connection that you have with a mom, with a woman, as soon as you know they're a mom. Like, you're like, I'm a mom. You're like, oh, I get you. Like, I understand everything you're going through. Like, let's get together. Let's pray. Let's talk. And so anyways, I don't know how even we got into here, but I was talking about.
No, that's great because you shared your entrepreneurial side. And I'm excited for what you're going to do. And I've always told you that it wouldn't surprise me if the businesses you're starting would be even more successful than mine and faster. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because you've got it. And so that's another thing, guys. If you're married, man, give each other flowers. Give each other flowers. You know, if you're listening and you're a woman, all your husband wants to know is that you got his back. And even though, he's not good looking, fat or whatever, just make him look like he's freaking Brad Pitt. I mean, make him think he's Brad Pitt. Make him feel like he's, The Rock as far as like strength and stuff like that. And be his cheerleader, basically. Cheer him up. I can't tell you how many men I've talked to who like are torn apart by their wives, dude. not totally uplifted, and like you can just tell in their demeanor, like, man, dude.
Respect and.
But one of the things I appreciate about you is that you've always made me feel like a rock star, and so yeah. But anyways, I'm excited for what you're gonna do. I'm excited for the businesses that you're about to start, guys. If you're watching, stay tuned because we will be promoting these launches of these two platforms. With that said, I just want you to look at the camera, babe, please, if you can, and I want you to give a message to women out there, man, within the subject and topic that we were talking about right now.
Yeah.
Just kind of what's in your heart. What do you feel God is putting in there? And yeah, and then we'll shut her down.
Yeah, sure. I gotta say that God knows you. God hears you. He's listening to you. And if you're going through a rough season in your marriage, pray for your husband. Go seek the Lord. Open your Bible. If you're in a season where you're super busy, like you have your kids and you're working and you're doing all those things, when you find those small moments that you can connect with God, do it. I understand that life can be very busy and it feels that you're just maybe talking to the wall or to air, but He is your Heavenly Father and He knows you by name and you are important to Him and He's listening to you. And if you trust Him, He will do amazing things. And don't give up on your marriage. Continue praying and seek Him with all your heart. It's a testament to an answered prayer to God, just moving my husband's heart and becoming the amazing man that he is. So feel free to reach out to me. I love talking to moms and women, and whether you're going through a rough season or not, you feel free to reach out to me and let's get together and let's pray and seek the Lord together.
Whoa. We're on a budget, babe, right? So don't be inviting people out here to the coffee, Nah, I'm just kidding. Teasing, totally.
I'm not going to ask you permission for that one.
Awesome, babe. Well, I just want to say that I love you. And we've been through a lot, man. We didn't even touch the surface. But both for the good, both for the bad and the good, I can tell you that we've had more good than bad.
Yes, we had.
The experiences, like you said earlier, that we've gotten to live, only God can allow us to live those things. And I'm really excited about our present, our future. And in the midst of what we're going through right now, regardless, I know He's got us. He's got us. And
put on your seatbelt.
And put on your seatbelt. Ooh, that would have been a great conversation, man. We didn't even talk about that.
So many things.
Guys, just real quick, this is how I'm going to close. I won't share the details because it's a long story short. I mean, it's a long story, but a long story short, just recently, man.
I'm scared every time you say that phrase because long story short, it means like,
no.
Here
just
we go, honey, one more hour. And I'm
just
like,
recently, my wife and I, we went to a conference, Christian conference for entrepreneurs, Kingdom Summit. And so we recommend it. We recommend it, guys. It was great. And we felt God really speak to her heart and my heart. And the decisions that we made after that conference, man, I remember like feeling like I got a download from the Almighty, dude. And we went out to eat and I was like, dude, how the heck do I tell my wife what I'm feeling right now, man? And I was like, well, that's what I felt. So I'm just going to tell her. She grabbed her sub. I grabbed my sub. We were sitting down and I was like, hey, so, this is what I felt, what are your thoughts? And her reaction was like, literally no words. It was like, here we go, baby. But hence, our life experiences and the fact that she was the ride or die, man, that's so cool, man. And so I love you, babe. I appreciate you. Guys, for those of you guys listening, thank you guys for tuning in to the WIFFY Real podcast. Today was a podcast a little different to what we normally do, but I feel that this is what needed to happen today. And I know somebody's going to hear it who needed to hear it, guys. I just want to let you guys know that we love you. We appreciate you. And thank you for all the support. I can't tell you how encouraging it's been in recent days to see the love and support from those who are following us on social and consuming what we're putting out there, guys. Love you guys. And like we always say in the WIFFY Real podcast, baby. Hoorah, baby.